All right, the first thing we're going to talk about in this section is comparison operators. We use these operators for comparing values. For example, let's declare a variable called x and set it to 10. Now, in this case, we know the value of x, but x could hold a value that we read dynamically at runtime. In that case, we don't know what is stored in x. Now, let's say you want to check to see if x is greater than 5. So we type x greater than 5. What we have here is called the greater than operator, which is one of the many comparison operators. We also have greater than or equal to. We have less than or equal to, as well as equal and not equal. Now, this piece of code we have here is called a Boolean expression. An expression in programming is a piece of code that produces a value. So a Boolean expression is a piece of code that produces a Boolean value. So we can get the result and store it in a Boolean variable called result, okay? Now, similarly, we can compare x with another variable, so we can declare y and set it to 5, and then check to see if x does not equal y. Now, we have a little warning here that says condition is always true. Because the compiler knows the value of these variables, it knows x is 10, y is 5, and 10 does not equal 5. That is why we get this warning. But if it didn't initialize these variables and read their values at runtime, we wouldn't get the warning. So don't worry about the warning at this stage, okay? Now let's print the result on the terminal. So we get 1, which means true. A quick question for you. How can we show the value true here instead of 1? We talked about this in the previous section. We have to use one of the string manipulators called bool alpha. Now, take a look. We get true. Beautiful. Now, one thing I want to emphasize is that to check for equality, make sure to use two equal signs. If you use a single equal sign, which is very common amongst beginners, you're essentially using the assignment operator. So here we're setting x to y, or more accurately, we're taking what is inside y, putting it into x, and then into result. So we have two assignment operators, okay? So to check for equality, make sure to use two equal signs. Now, most of the time, we compare values of the same type. So here we have two integers. But let's see what would happen if we compare an integer with, let's say, a double. So I'm going to change this to double. Now let's run the program and see what we get. We get false, which makes sense because 10 does not equal to 5. So in this case, the compiler automatically casts or converts x from int to double so it can perform the comparison. So when comparing values of different types, the compiler will automatically cast or convert values from smaller or less precise types to larger and more precise types. This is something you should keep in mind. Now, we can use the same operators for comparing characters. So instead of numbers, let's declare two characters, first and second. Now we can check to see if first equals second, okay? Let's print it and see what we get. We get 0, which is false, because the lowercase a does not equal to uppercase A. So comparing characters in C++ is case sensitive, just like the language itself.